Hi, I'm Catherine. Welcome to the garden. I'm so excited to take you around today and show you some of the harvest that I'm already getting from my garden. Come with me and I will take you on a tour and show you all of the heat-loving plants that I have in my Zone 9B garden. In most garden tours, I start at the front of the garden, coming in through the garden gate, but today I am starting in the back of the garden. I wanted to show you my long beans, which are really starting to come on. They're so amazing, and these green beans will grow up to a yard long. They're nicknamed yard long beans. So I've planted asparagus long beans and these purple long beans, and the purple are the ones that are giving me the most fruit right now. It's amazing to see them putting on. They'll get twice as long as that and quite a bit thicker, and then we chop them up and cook them like green beans most of the time. They're also called noodle beans, and they are a lot of fun. The kids have enjoyed them. They're good fresh right off the vine, and some of my children will munch them like that, but otherwise they go inside and end up getting added to a meal. My gray zucchini patch is growing like crazy. I'm so excited for seeing some of the fruit start to put on, and there are a few places where there's some very young fruit just starting. All of these seeds were saved from previous gardens, as well as the long beans that I already showed you. So I am hoping that we have a more adapted zucchini that just keeps giving. I know zucchinis are known for that, for being very prolific, but I'm excited to see what is actually happening from seeds saved from my garden. Just the joy of being able to turn this over season to season. This is one of my Seminole pumpkins. I planted it here in this bed because on each side of the bed it has a lot of room to run. This is a pumpkin or squash that's native to Florida, and the flesh is somewhat like a butternut squash, but is a very heat tolerant variety. So last year I did get some Seminole pumpkins, but I planted them at an odd time. They like to grow through the heat of summer, so this year hopefully the climate will let them just do their max. I'm amazed at how big these leaves are. I don't think our leaves were this big on this plant last year, but the mulch that we put down seems to have done that to just about everything. The wood chip mulch that we had a local tree trimmer drop off seems to have really been feeding and protecting our soil so that everything is just flourishing. We're not having the drought problems that I've had in previous years, and like I said, all of the leaves seem to be bigger than last year. This is another Seminole pumpkin that is running along the side of the arched garden bed. And it's amazing to see how it kind of picks a spot out of the path, but just runs right along the bed here. I am expecting that it's going to want to cross the path, and we will have to be very careful where we step. But it's amazing to see our paths are shrinking and our garden is just growing. These are the cowpeas you saw me picking in the beginning of the video. This is pink eye purple hull variety of cowpea. So they're like a black-eyed pea, but these are a pink-eyed pea. And they're just amazing. They're setting tons and tons of fruit. And I am just keeping an eye for them to get some purple streaking, a little bit more purple coloring on their hull, and that tells me it's time to pick them for fresh eating. So we have just munched these in the pod off of the vine, and they're delicious like that for a snack, But I have picked enough that I am going to shell them and cook them, and we're gonna have a pot of southern cowpeas. I'm so excited for this because my family does love beans and legumes of all types, and so trying these cowpeas cooked in a way that we enjoy other bean type of vegetables, I just am so excited to introduce my family to this food. We have made black-eyed peas in the past, but I expect that making them fresh off the vine is a very special treat. This particular pod where the beans are starting to bulge is just probably a day away from getting the purple streaking that we want to pick it. So I am picking them daily as the pods are turning purple. Some pods are fully purple before I get to them, and that is a little past what I want to pick for fresh eating. Last year, I did let quite a lot of the peas dry on the vine. Then I picked the dried pods and shelled them, and that was the seed that I saved for this year. So I intend to do the same thing at the end of this season. I'll let quite a few pods completely go to seed, dry on the vine, and then I will pick them, shell them, and store them away for next year. Cowpeas are a nitrogen fixer, so they're actually great for planting as a cover crop also. If you're looking for a cover crop to get you through the heat of the summer, these are super fun and very low maintenance. I love to stand back and see the beauty of just this covered trellis area. I described how I made this in the past, but I didn't go in depth. So what I did is I had an old fence that my husband helped me cut apart with a grinder, and then I pounded those posts into the ground. Then I had some leftover plastic tubing, which was part of one of my kids' toys, similar to PVC pipe. And then we had the ring from the top of our old trampoline that I used for the top. So this is totally, I call it my found garden or my scrap garden a lot, because everything is made out of scraps and odds and ends of things that we already had. We didn't have to go out and spend $50 or hundreds of dollars to make these arch trellises, but I spent about $5.99 buying the bird netting that I covered it with, and that ended up being a very effective trellis. This is the same bird netting as I used the entire year last year. I grew 2 seasons of crops on it, and it is still holding up very well, though I did resituate it and attach it to the arches this spring. These are the main area where I planted the purple yard-long beans, and as you can see, they are very long. These ones are ready to be picked. I'm going to pick at least these couple, and I know I saw a few more thin ones around the garden, so in the next few days I'll have more like this one ready to go inside and be eaten. These are another one that if you want to save the seeds, you can allow them to fully dry on the vine and then pick and shell the beans, and they are seeds saved for the following year. It's also fine to save them that way and use them as cooked beans if needed, but it's a lot harder for me to grow enough to save them as dried beans. I just save them as seed, and then the next year we have a new crop of these yard-long beans. This is another scrap garden idea. I really wanted to build a trellis for these to climb on, and so I had a couple cedar fence posts that hadn't been used in a project. I ripped them down as these small posts and then built a trellis that has held up very well for me, and I strung it with twine that I had from the Dollar Tree. This volunteer pumpkin vine is taking over the side of the garden. I am not sure if it's going to give us pumpkins. It's quite late in the year for fruit to set on this type of pumpkin just because it's so hot. But it is giving a lot of shade to the herb area, which is great for the herbs. They are growing and thriving and don't seem to mind sharing their space with this pumpkin. My little potato patch is beginning to die back, and so I am thinking it's time to go in looking for these potatoes. They probably have another week or two until I will start digging in the bed, but I'm very curious to see if my store potatoes that were planted here produced little potatoes for me. I will consider it a bonus because it was just sprouting potatoes that I had in my cabinet that I decided to put in this bed. Now, I did have one volunteer sweet potato come up in this bed, but my main sweet potatoes were planted in my food forest, so I'll bring you out to the food forest. This is also completely covered in mulch where the sweet potato vines are just running and thriving, and I am so hopeful that we're going to have a good little sweet potato harvest this year. These are slips that I grew myself from store sweet potatoes. It's recommended that you use organic sweet potatoes to sprout for slips, but I'm pretty sure some of these were sprouted from conventional sweet potatoes that I soaked in water and then set to sprouting. They did fine and they gave me slips. As you could see, I now have sweet potato plants. So time will tell how many and what size of sweet potatoes I ended up with. I did plant two different varieties, one a purple skinned and one a more normal orange flesh, orange skin type. I have several pepper plants scattered around my food forest, and they are giving me occasional peppers. I have jalapenos and serranos in the food forest, and occasionally I get a little chili off of these plants. They haven't given me too many yet. What I'm really hoping is that these pepper plants in the food forest will perennialize and we'll be able to get at least a handful of years out of them. This is a little papaya plant that I started from seed a little bit earlier in the year, and I have now started several more. I might have 10 or 12 more papaya plants in my little garden nursery area that I have under my big mesquite tree. And I hope to get them just throughout the yard growing and producing papaya for me. This is our largest moringa tree, and I do have a few small moringa trees planted in the food forest and a few small moringa trees sprouted in the garden nursery. This banana was given to us by a friend. He has a banana tree that constantly sends out pups, and when he has a bunch of bananas, he often shares some with us. They're delicious, smaller than a conventional banana, and a sweeter taste and a firmer bite. But I'm amazed by them, and I'm happy to grow them in my yard. I cannot wait for our first rack of bananas. This is my little garden nursery area I was talking about. I always have new plants sprouting under this big mesquite tree. It is the perfect semi-shaded area for plants to grow. I had lots of papaya trees started this year, and this is a fig tree that I got from a neighbor's yard. It was a root cutting, or a shoot that was coming off of the root area, and I planted a few of those. This is the only one that took. I also have some redbud trees. Texas redbud trees are common around here, but I had one that was trimmed, and I just tried to see if they would sprout, and they did. My father-in-law also does some of his gardening here, and he has this nopal cutting from a friend that he is getting rooted in this little bucket of soil. This is something that we'll happily plant in our yard, and it produces delicious nopal leaves that can be eaten in a variety of ways. Here's a sample of the harvest that's going inside with me today. Just a handful, but I have been getting at least this much or a little bit more daily. And so it's fun to sometimes save up and have a little bit to eat together, or just to add to what we're already eating. Pretty soon we're going to be getting a lot more than this, and we'll need to be eating it daily to make the most of our garden, which is a wonderful problem to have. You can see I'm going through and selecting the cowpeas that have that reddish purple streaking on them. Those are the ones that are great for shelling and cooking fresh. And so I am so excited to try out a pot of fresh southern cowpeas from our garden. And hopefully this is a video that I can share with you. We have plenty that I can cook a pot for my family, and then I can share a pot with you if you're interested in growing something like this and trying cooking it for your family. Thank you so much for joining me in the garden today. I am very thankful for that additional rain that we got, and thankful that our garden is flourishing. I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe if you would like to see more about my garden.